Hello, this is Mouse Jacobs for the Bar Spoken Word, and I am talking to Matthew Geden, not for the first time. I should highlight Matthew. And we've talked before, we've even met in person, but and we've had you as a guest before, but that was during COVID and it was on Zoom. And now obviously everyone's back in person, more or less. And we've been talking about this for a couple of years, even before COVID, I think, that you would become a guest at the Bar Spoken Word. So I'm really glad that it's finally going to happen and you'll be there live in person. Because in the past period on Zoom, you have been writer in residence for Cork County Council and for the library service, I think.
Yeah, it's the same. It's part of the same thing, really. Actually,
Okay.
Mosey. So the Cork County Council, officially, I've been writer in residence for the last 3 years for Cork County Library and Arts Service. So basically, I'm employed by the county council, and the idea is that each year I would be assigned 5 different libraries in the county. And so I would go to one each month, and well, on a monthly basis, and give a kind of workshop to the writers groups there. So this last year, it's been Clonakilty and Youghal, Mill Street, Mallow, and Skibbereen, which has been great. Each library there, as I say, has a writers group. So I've been going in, and every group's different, as I'm sure you know. So you kind of have to tune in to what their wants and requirements are. But mostly it's a case of workshopping each other's work. So everyone would bring in one piece of their own work, a poem or a story or whatever, and we would go through it as a group, and it's been great. Actually, it's been really. I think what it's made me realize is how many people out there are writing and interested in writing in the county. I mean, this is just the Cork County, and it's phenomenal, really, the amount of people who are writing and really good stuff too. You know, some of the work that comes into these workshops, so impressive, really, stuff that you'd read in magazines or in anthologies. Yeah, it's so good. I think you know, I actually think it's probably in some ways a kind of payoff from COVID in the
Oh, okay.
sense I think people, during COVID, a lot more people did return to reading and writing, and have found that they've really enjoyed it. And so I get the feeling that there is. I mean, I've got nothing to base it on, but it does seem as though there is more interest out there at the moment. And I definitely think that time of lockdown, maybe made people reassess a little bit, and so people are definitely writing more, in my experience, and really good things too.
And during COVID, I think when the libraries were closed as well, you set up a car and drove were driving a couple of online poetry groups. And does it make a lot of difference to you whether you interact with people on Zoom or in person? Do you find one or the other preferable?
Yeah, I know. I do prefer in person. I mean, I can't deny that. I think most of us do, really. But obviously, Zoom is a different animal, really, a different beast, and it is it serves a purpose, and it actually. So yeah, I mean, I was appointed writer in residence literally the first day of lockdown, so I had no option really but to go on Zoom. And I'd never used Zoom before. So we were all in it together. I mean, literally in that way, we were all kind of learning, and it was a steep learning curve, but it actually worked. And as you say, I had one poetry group, two prose groups online, and we would meet every 2 weeks, and still do meet, although we're taking a break for the summer. But yeah, no, it definitely serves a purpose. It enabled us to keep going. It enabled us to have contact. It enabled us to form groups that are still pretty cohesive and strong even now. It's not perfect, but yeah, I mean, my preference, as I say, would be for the classroom scenario where you can relax a little bit more, and I think people feel, most people feel, that they can talk better in a small group, in person. Zoom can be a bit intimidating for people, particularly
Mm.
old people who aren't necessarily au fait with a laptop or a computer. And let's face it, not everyone has a laptop or a computer either. So
Yeah.
it can be, it can sort of alienate certain groups, and I'm aware of that, and that's why I was so glad to get back into the libraries, because libraries are really where it started, where all these writing groups began. And I think we're very lucky in the county of Cork to have such amazing libraries, and librarians as well, who
Yeah.
really, go all out to make these sessions work, and really help writers, in so many ways. I live in Kinsale, and we've just had a new library just opened last week
Okay.
in town. It's absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful library, and it's so good to see, libraries over here in Ireland being sort of, promoted and being updated at a time when in England a lot of libraries are closing down.
Yeah,
So
that's horrible actually, because it's so
yeah,
important as a free resource for people to just borrow any book they like, and even you can even sometimes borrow musical instruments, which is
yeah,
a great service. I think you also do or did like one-on-one mentoring with people. And
yeah,
can you say a little bit, say that, because people come to you with something they've written, they might not feel total, they might have not have a lot of confidence, and they might be struggling with certain aspects. Is there anything that can be said about that process of mentoring somebody to help them with their writing?
yeah. I mean, I think mentoring is becoming more and more useful really for people. I think it's for me. I think it's the next logical step. For after. I think the workshop scenarios is the best scenario to go to initially. But when you feel comfortable in those, and when you've got a body of work together, then then is probably the best time to seek out a mentor or a mentorship. Um, it helps if you've got a specific project that you're working on, a book of poems or a book of short stories. I think that's when the mentorship can really sort of pay dividends, because the writing process in many ways can be sort of solved or aided through workshops, but the mentorship enables you to go beyond just the writing process, to look at the approaching publishers, to look
Mm.
at editing manuscripts, to look at the kind of, I suppose, what you'd call the business of writing, which not everybody is interested in. In a workshop scenario, most people are just happy, producing work, and they're not necessarily interested in writing a book or a play or whatever. They're just quite happy in that, those weekly or bi-weekly meetings. So the mentorship, yeah, I I did offer a mentorship, and we have had a few people come through the mentorship, and
As
it
part
has,
of the library group?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, there's one writer who has been working on a novel. Um, there's another writer I've been helping with a book of poems. Um, so yeah, it's very useful if, as I say, if you've got a particular project that you want to push to the next level. Um, and I would definitely recommend anyone out there who is feeling that they've, they're in the point of where they want to finish off a manuscript or get some feedback on a manuscript. The one-to-one mentorships are great because you've got focused time. You can get so much more done in half an hour or an hour of real focused conversation and looking at a text than you can in a workshop scenario. Workshop scenarios are great, and you get, obviously you get lots of different opinions, which can be very helpful. But in the one-to-one, it's obviously a much more detailed approach.
Is
So
yeah, but I suppose that's something you need to pay for if it's not under a scheme.
yeah, I mean, as I say, the library scheme has been great because it has enabled people to avail of that, for free. So
Mm-hmm.
people can book a mentorship with the writer in residence. Now, so next time the writer in residence begins, which will be in it's usually around October, people should look out for that. And if they're interested in free mentoring, then that's definitely the way to go.
Are
Um,
you will you be could you be the writer in residence again? Is that a
um,
possibility or is it?
I don't know, Moser. I mean, it is a possibility, certainly. I'd love to. I mean, I really enjoy it. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have the last 3 years um, of being writer in residence, and I've really enjoyed it. And as I say, meeting so many writers from all different walks of life, different experiences, different styles of writing, different themes, and as I say, what's really impressed me is not just the quantity, but also the quality of the
Mm.
work that's getting produced, and also the fact that places like Tabarras are putting on an Ovale in Cork and elsewhere are giving these writers an opportunity to read their work as well. I mean, it's a really vibrant community. It's so different, Moser, really, to what I remember when I started out writing in Cork 25 years ago, whenever it was, when there was, reading opportunities were very limited, really, and as were publishing as well. And writing groups existed, but they were few and far between. So you'd have to travel. Whereas now it seems almost every library or every small town has a writing group, or
Yeah.
if not, you can go online, So that, it's a really good, and I think we're seeing the results of that in the success of Irish literature generally. The success of Irish novelists getting shortlisted for the Booker Prize, etc., and Irish poets winning awards and films being made from Irish books. I mean, this is all a result of people, like attending workshops and, beginning at the beginning, really. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I would actually, I hope, in a way, I hope that you will attract writers from writers groups to this the Barra spoken word session on the 6th of September, because I think there is still a bit like, oh, you have to be really good to read there, and that's not at all the case. And I also find that if you see people coming back over time at the open mic, which there always is at the Barras, then you also see a kind of progression, because I think it's a specific kind of reading if you do
Yeah.
it in front of an audience, which is it's still more intimidating than sitting in a circle with people, some of whom but it's also it can be quite exhilarating if you go through it. And I just wish that more people would avail of that opportunity, basically.
Completely agree. And whenever I do classes or courses in the city or in the county, I always mention Tabarras and Ovale and other places that do offer this opportunity, because the best way to learn is through doing that, and they're friendly environments,
Yes.
and they're really like you say, there are a lot of the same people turn up, so there's a community there in these places, and
Yeah.
they're good fun, and everybody's relaxed, and there's no judgment, and
No,
there's
there's a
no
lot of encouragement for everyone, I think, because
oh
everyone knows
yeah,
what it's like to just go out there and sort of bare your soul, or show
yeah,
what you've done. And it's part of the
yeah.
fun, that it's exciting.
Yeah, and the great thing is that virtually everybody does a turn, I mean, obviously there's no pressure. You can go along and just watch, or just listen rather, but like nearly almost everybody will at some point get up and read a poem,
Yeah.
or something, and that helps build that trust and that community. When you see the person next to you do it, suddenly it doesn't seem so difficult for you yourself to go up and
Yeah.
do it. Uh,
Okay, talking about which, I mean, you're obviously going to read from your own work on the 6th of September. Have you
oh,
anything in mind? I mean, have you been able to write in the past period?
yeah, no, I have, Moser. I mean, it's I think writer in residence is a bit of a misnomer in many ways, because most of the time you're facilitating workshops or reading other people's work,
Mm.
and look, that's no bad thing, but you have to remember to try and create a space, as all writers do, whatever job we have. You have to remember to create a space to do your own work. So yeah, no, I'm always conscious of that, of the importance of keeping in touch with your own work. So I've been doing a little bit of a new collection, which I might read a poem or two from. But that's a long way down the line. That won't be out for a good few years, I would say. But
Mm.
I've also been doing some translating as well, which translating from a Cuban poet called Yairen Jerez Colombier, who lives in Cork, and I've been translating some of her first collection from Spanish. So, I've been keeping busy, Moser. Yeah, it's
Will
yeah.
she also come? You think?
I,
I mean,
I,
because it would actually be nice, but I don't know if that's at all possible. But it'd be nice to hear it in the original Spanish as well as the English
yeah, I
translation.
will. Well, yeah. I'll ask her. I'll ask her, Moser. Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean it would. It is lovely to hear the Spanish read by a native speaker. I mean, it really is completely different. She reads so well as well.
I assume
Um,
you have Spanish, or
yeah, rudimentary, Moser. I mean, like, I'm lucky enough to have contact with Yairen, so I can run my first, second, third drafts by her, and she can, sort of, point me in the right direction when I'm going completely off the wrong way, which of course happens in translation.
Mm.
So I mean, that helps a lot. But yeah, so I've been doing translation, and obviously I'll also read from my last book, The Cloud Architects, which came out back in September. It seems ages ago, but it's less than a year ago.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
I'll read a little bit from that too. Um, yeah,
My last question, because we promised to keep it short, but you haven't
so,
done that. Um, do you feel that the whole COVID period, and you were mentioning how that people have obviously been forced to do more introspecting if they manage that, and do you feel that it has changed your own writing in some ways this last period, this last couple of years?
that's a really good question, but unfortunately, I'm not sure. I still think it's too early, really, in a way. I think writers can be very slow at assimilating um, big events like COVID. I don't think we're really at the stage where we're understanding it. In some ways, we're not even through it yet. Um,
Yeah.
so I think, has it affected my own work? Yeah, it probably has actually. It's on a very simple level. It's made me take my work more seriously, I think. when when you go through something like we've all been through, it does make you reassess your life. And I think I do feel that in terms of writing, it's important that we all take ourselves much more seriously and really kind of push ourselves as far as we can. It's very easy to take your foot off the pedal sometimes, but I think, we all owe it to ourselves to make as much of our writing as we possibly can. I think
Yeah.
those are.
Well, that's a good way to end. Except I wanted to add when you were talking, I thought, in a way, your COVID experience has maybe not been completely typical because you continued in your role and you managed to give that a really, to fulfill that, even because you were those poetry groups were so important to many people. It's like, the thing to look forward to, the one time a week you'd meet up and write. So the total isolation of people losing their work, losing their contacts, losing everything doesn't really apply. And I think that is what has been the most confrontational piece of COVID, and the scariest as well.
You're dead right, actually. I do think I had a very untypical and very positive experience of that time. And I'm well aware that there are lots of people out there who did not have a positive experience and did not, enjoy the period at all. I mean, I know for a fact, I was actually busier than I've ever been, where a lot of people were not. A lot of people were thrown into, like you say, isolation, alienation, and all that. So yeah, no, I'm conscious of that. I was also lucky. I live in Kinsale. Being locked down in Kinsale, what could be better in many ways. It's like, so I know lots of people were being locked down in really, really difficult circumstances. So yeah, I think you're right. It's important to make that point that for me it was positive, but a lot of people it wasn't. But for those who it wasn't, I think it's a good thing to try through writing or through art or through music or whatever, to try and express that, to try and find an outlet for those that experience, positive or negative.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much, Matthew, and I really look forward to seeing you and hopefully a lot of the people that have been in contact with you in the past years.
Yeah,
At the 6th of September in the Barat.